four P's of marketing were created before the internet, social media, smartphones, e-commerce, and obviously generative AI. So while they still have their place, how should marketers rethink the framework to make it more relevant to today's challenges? What should we be considering beyond product, place, price, and promotion? Marketing and sales are full of myths, misconceptions, and sometimes outdated frameworks. So join us as we get out of the echo chamber and take the four P's from theory to practice with a healthy dose of modernity.
Hello, and welcome to the Rethink Marketing Podcast, where we strive to help our listeners hone their craft in bite-sized segments. I'm Paul Frodge, joined by Mr. Marketing, and for today's conversation, the favorable financier of faithfully finding functionality in the familiar four P's, Colin Jeffries. Colin, I think that's the longest alliteration that I've had.
It might be by word count, by syllable. I mean, Paul, that was outstanding. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Interested in diving into the four P's and our segment, looking at four different episodes and diving in a little bit further. You mentioned before the internet on the original four P's. You're really dating me. I remember learning the four P's as you outlined them in college, and now you're rethinking what those four P's should actually be.
That's exactly right, Paul. And, take this as some sort of conciliatory effort, I guess. But I also learned the four P's. I studied marketing as an undergraduate. And of course, one of the core foundational principles of our intro to marketing class was the four P's. I could still recite them: product, price, place, promotion. And I think those are very valuable because when we're talking about marketing theory, everyone being on the same page with what is our product, basically how we're going to market, what our factors and benefits and those sorts of things are of that product, how we're discounting, how we're pricing, etc. Those all matter a lot. However, I do a lot of marketing in the healthcare space, and most healthcare providers, unfortunately, don't have price as an option. So immediately, many types of organizations actually don't have price on the table. That leaves them with three P's. Then we think about place. And place used to be where you met your customers. And, traditionally we had basically radio, TV, print, etc. It was much easier to get in front of people in a unique environment or in a unique setting. Well, now with the ubiquity of the internet and billions of websites out there, hundreds of social media platforms with tens of thousands of different nuanced groups, all of a sudden place becomes very convoluted and extremely commoditized. So we have to think beyond place. And then promotion, I'll go back to the healthcare example. You've never seen an advertisement that says, buy one carpal tunnel surgery, get the second one half off. Or, today only therapy sessions are 25% discount if you sign up for 20 of them. Like, we don't see that type of pricing gamesmanship being played in a lot of industries. E-com actually is very similar. We do see some special pricing, but a lot of that's not driven by individual organizations. It's driven by the retailers that actually sell the product. So we kind of have to take pricing out of it as well. We have to take promotion out of it. We have to take place out of it. So that really just leaves us with product. And what we find is a lot of businesses go to market where they're duking it out in the product space, and all they're doing is educating. They're saying things like, we're here, here's our product, we're open, we're accepting new customers. And it's time to rethink the four P's in a way that makes sense for today's businesses. So I think with that, we'll jump in today and talk about people, the first of the four P's. Now, the new four P's that I'm proposing are people, platform, process, and, like we just talked about during this extensive intro, product, because product definitely still has a place among the four P's. And when we get to the product episode here in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about the differences between the initial product in the four P's from the 1960s and today's product that we're talking about every touch point. So with that, let's dive in and let's talk about the first of the four P's and maybe the most foundational: people.
And before we do that, if I could back up just for a second, Colin, in regards to the four P's and the principles of marketing. And when you look at it, it's not like the Constitution where it continues to live forever and everything is abided by and followed indefinitely. It seems like the four P's of marketing are ever changing. And one of the things I think about also with the four P's is when those were written, it doesn't seem like it was written even for the B2B segment for marketing. A lot of it seems to be very B2C centric and very product oriented and not really service based. So I'm interested in diving in on the people and the future episodes that we're getting ready to talk about.
That's a great point, Paul. We'll start with people. People are not a differentiator unless we are extremely intentional about building and maintaining a culture that allows them to be a differentiator. So I like to talk about the airline industry really quick. When you think about Southwest Airlines, I've been on a number of Southwest flights, and almost invariably, something that the flight attendant does makes me laugh. And air travel is a commoditized industry. When you think about the FAA and regulations and education and credentials and all the stuff that goes into making sure you have pilots, ground crew, flight attendants, etc., that are all licensed and certified and they pass the right exams and all this stuff, we're talking about a very commoditized industry. And yet, whenever I'm on a Southwest flight, I expect to laugh. I expect to be entertained at some level. When I'm on a United Airlines flight, I don't expect that. When I'm on an American Airlines flight, I don't expect that. And so Southwest has done a great job of building a culture, of attracting the right talent, of training the right talent, of giving people a rubric in which to operate where, yes, they're checking the right boxes, yes, they're doing the right things, and yet they're also free to express their personality, to make jokes, to be friendly, those sorts of things. Southwest has been extremely rigorous and intentional about building that culture and making its people a differentiator.
That's interesting point about Southwest, and probably one of the things that you're thinking about when you jump on a Southwest flight is if somebody doesn't emote that type of energy when you get on the plane, it almost feels like you should be on another airline, right? And the things that looking at uh, other companies out there that about the people and what to expect. You think of Walt Disney, you think of Chick-fil-A, you think of others that bring a smile to your face. And when somebody doesn't really follow that, when you pull through the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, and when they don't say it's my pleasure. When you say thank you, then you think you should be working at McDonald's.
That's exactly right, Paul. When we think about a Disney employee, or we think about a Chick-fil-A employee, or we think about a Southwest employee, we have, and the only one of those that I've gone through training for is Chick-fil-A. I used to work at Chick-fil-A a long time ago, but I haven't gone through Disney training. But when I see a person working at Disney, I know that they fit the bill. When I walk onto a Southwest flight and I am greeted with a smile by the flight attendant, I know that they're a Southwest type person. And so when we're talking about people as a differentiator, if we aren't hiring, XYZ organization type people, then our people cannot be a differentiator. If I can hire a Wendy's employee and have them fit in at Burger King, if I can hire a McDonald's employee and have them fit in at Dairy Queen, there's not a McDonald's type of employee. There's not a Dairy Queen type of employee. They go through standard onboarding, standard recruiting, standard fill in the blank, right? They're basically filling a box. And those organizations have been successful. But when we're talking to business leaders and marketers and they're saying our people are a differentiator, we have to we mentally, cognitively, we have to say, this is the XYZ type of person. This is the Holland type of person. This is the fill in the blank, right? Like whatever your organization is, we have to be able to recognize this is the Southwest person, not the Delta person, not the American Airlines person, not the United Airlines person. Those are successful businesses. They have their own thing, but our shtick, our people are going to be a differentiator. And because of that, we have to know as customers, as vendors, as the general community, we have to know that that's the type of person that business hires.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Looking at the three companies that we're mentioning, though, they are all B2C. I'd like to jump over and get your opinion and thoughts on the B2B side of things when it comes to people. Do you feel like there's certain companies out there that you can really differentiate and understand that, hey, they work at XYZ company versus others? And how is that formal training there on certain companies that aren't necessarily e-commerce or B2C?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. So, Paul, last week I had the chance of attending Think Lead Gen at Google. And when we think of Google, Google is a massive B2B conglomerate where maybe general consumers might think about Gmail, YouTube, Google as a search engine, et cetera. But really, Google is selling to advertisers and marketers. So, it's a big B2B conglomerate. They have almost 200,000 employees. And every person that I met at Think Lead Gen was the Google type of person. And I don't know exactly what that means, but when you talk to them, you feel it. They're smart, they're organized, they're tech forward, they're passionate. Every single person sort of exuded the Google methodology, if you will. I knew when I was talking to somebody, oh, you work for Google, you're not a vendor, you're not a client, right? And it was really fascinating to just think about the Google type of person. And again, they're going to market with almost 200,000 people. So if Google can do it, then any B2B brand, I think, can do it.
One of the things that I'm looking at right now is colleges for my oldest daughter. And we were just traveling down south to a few universities down there. And one of the colleges that we went to was Clemson. And at Clemson, you have to be on maybe 3 or 4 cups of coffee in order to do a tour. I think, the excitement and the energy, and you just feel it in the room, and it's making everybody say "Go Tigers," and it's just it's definitely a different feeling than the other universities that we toured. Everybody is unique, but and everybody has their own personality and style, but the one that resonated with me was definitely with Clemson with the tour guides.
That's really interesting because when you think about driving a particular type of person into those very forward community facing roles, the training is really important as well. It's not just let's find the right people and let them flourish. It's give them specific training, help them with, the jokes that they're going to make and the things that they're going to do, and build that consistency. That's all key, because if we're not doing that, what people say is the first thing that pops into their head, which may or may not be what we as the marketing team or as the executive team or what have you really want them to say in a community facing or a customer facing role.
Well, Colin, we're coming up on time for this episode. Anything else you want to add?
Paul, the only thing else I would add is that when we're talking about people, it has to go way beyond the marketing team. If we have salespeople, they're actually building brand. If we have customer service people, they're handling retention and those sorts of metrics. If we have back end people, how our customers are thinking about engaging with our chatbot, with our website, with everything. Anybody that is customer facing has to be totally on board. I would say, even again, to circle back to Southwest, we've even seen videos of Southwest ground crew like dancing and those sorts of things, which is something that you would expect from a Southwest person, but not probably something you would expect from a United Airlines person. So as we're talking about people as one of the foundational 4 Ps, we have to recognize it goes way, way, way beyond just those marketing people over there doing the marketing stuff. It has to be an entire organization of those type of people.
Well, thanks for joining us for this episode of the 4 Ps and the series of talking about people. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about product. Until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If people want to connect with us, where should they go, Paul?
RethinkMarketingPodcast.com, Colin. What can listeners do to help us in return for this sage marketing wisdom and our pithy humor?
They can help us by leaving a review on their favorite platform or sharing this episode with a fellow marketer to help them cut through the clutter.
Well, until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions.